Hey guys, welcome to INS's Artistic Pursuits. In today's video, we are going to make this cute little pouch that you can use to organize your handbag, or you can carry as is using this wristlet handle. And we're going to add this zip. I'm going to show you how to do that, and we're going to also add this cute little strap on top. So let's grab our things and get started. To make this pouch, I'm using 1 mm nylon yarn, two different colors. This is going to be my primary color and this is going to be my secondary color. Together you need less than 100 grams of the yarn. I'm using a 2.5 mm hook, 7-inch zipper, some stitch markers, a tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. For this pouch, we are going to start making the base of the pouch first, and then we're going to work our way up. For that, first we make a slip knot, and then we make 15 working chains. So that's my 15 working chains. And this bag will actually be working around this chain. Some people prefer working on either side of this, either sides of the loop of the V's. I generally prefer working in the back bump and then working in the loops. So I'll show you how I do it, but you can do it either way. So first we're going to make rows of single crochets around this chain. So for that we'll make one chain. This doesn't count as a stitch, it's just a turning chain. And instead of working into this loop here, I'm going to turn my work around, look at the back side of my work, and into the second chain from the hook, into this bump right here. I'm just going to insert my hook and I'm going to make my single crochet. So that's my first single crochet, and I'm going to continue going into these back bumps over here and make my single crochets till I reach the end of this chain. So I'll meet you guys back when I reach the end of this chain. So I'm just making my last 15th single crochet on this side of the chain. Just make sure this last chain is tight. Just pull on this tail over here and tighten that loop. So now we have 15 single crochets on this on the chain. Now into the last chain space where we made the last single crochet, we are going to make 4 additional single crochets. So we go into the same chain space and we make 4 additional single crochets in that space. So that's 1, 2, 3, you can also hide your tail when you're doing this work, and that's my 4th one in the same chain space. So now you should have a total of 5 single crochets in that last chain space of yours. Now into the following chain, into the following stitch right here, you can start seeing the V's. Because we worked in the back bumps of the chain, your V's will be visible on top, and into these V's we are going to make our single crochets again. So now once you go into this V here, oh that's tight, make 1 single crochet, we go into the next V, next stitch, and we keep making 1 single crochet into each of these stitches. So that's my second one. We make 1 single crochet into each of these stitches till we reach the last chain space here. So that should be 14 stitches after your consecutive 5 ones. So I'll meet you guys once you reach the last single crochet over here. I'm just making my single crochet in the last chain space. Okay, so now into the last chain space that we made the single crochet in, we are going to make 3 additional single crochets in the same space. So go into the same space, go into the same space and make 3 additional single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So now if you see in this chain space, you will have 5 single crochets. So the last 4 that we made and the first ever single crochet of this row also sits in the same chain space. So you should have 5 single crochets. Now to complete this row, we will slip stitch into our first single crochet. Your first row might just be a little tight. It gets better the more you work around it. So now the base row 1 looks quite oval, but our pouch is actually flat at the back and curved in the front, which resembles kind of the shape D, the alphabet D. So we are going to incorporate the stitches in that manner. So if you know how you make a rectangle base, we're going to follow that pattern for the back half of the bag, and for the front half we are going to form an oval shape. So for that, now once we've made the slip stitch, we make a chain, and into the same space we are going to make 1 single crochet. Okay, so now we make 14 additional single crochets, and we will add our shapes. We'll start shaping our base from the next stitch onwards. So once you finished 1 single crochet, make 14 more single crochets, and I'll see you for the next stitch. With this stitch I complete a total of 15 stitches from the start of this row. Now into the next stitch we are going to make 1 single crochet, a chain and a single crochet, all into the same stitch. So first we go into the stitch, we make 1 single crochet, then we make a chain, and then we go back into the same stitch and we make a single crochet again. So now I'm going to grab 2 stitch markers of the same color for the rectangle part. So I'm going to use this yellow stitch markers for the rectangle part of the bag, which is on the back side of the pouch. So I'm going to grab one of these stitch markers and mark this chain space right here. Okay, right. Now for the following stitch, into the next stitch we are going to make 2 single crochets, simple 2 single crochets. That's 1 and that's 2. Now I'm going to grab 4 stitch markers of the same color for the front D shape of the pouch, and I'm going to grab the stitch marker and mark this single crochet that we just made. That is the second single crochet of that stitch, the last one that we just made. I've just marked it, and I'm going to go into the next stitch of the previous row and I'm going to make 2 single crochets again. That's 1 and 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this white stitch marker and I'm going to mark the last stitch that we just made, this last single crochet. Okay, now into the following stitch we are going to make one single crochet into the next following 15 stitches. So I'll meet you guys after you make 15 single crochets in these stitches. So now this completes my 15th stitch. Now into our following stitch, we are going to make 2 single crochets. So make 1 single crochet, go back into the same stitch, and we make 1 additional single crochet. Now we grab one of these white markers and we mark the first single crochet of this stitch. So this is my second single crochet and this is the first one of this stitch right now. So I'm going to mark the first one. Now into the next stitch, we are going to make 2 single crochets again. So we make 1 and we go back into the same stitch and make another one. Again, we grab one of the white markers that we have remaining, and into the first of the 2 stitches that we just made, we are going to mark that. So that was the last stitch that I made. This is the second last one. I marked the second last stitch. Now into the following stitch, we are going to make 1 single crochet, a chain, and a single crochet into the same stitch. So we go into this following stitch. Yeah, maybe a little tight. Again, make 1 single crochet, we make a chain, and we go back into the same stitch and make a single crochet. Now grab that yellow stitch marker and mark the chain space. Okay. And to complete this row, we will slip stitch into this first single crochet right here. So now you can see that this is the back side of your pouch, and this will start forming a sharp edge. This one with the yellow marker will start having the sharp edges, while the marker with the side with the white markers will start having these curved edges, which will make this look more like the letter D. So now let's continue. Now for round 3, we make 1 chain and we go into the first single crochet and we make a single crochet. We'll make a single crochet till we reach this stitch marker right here. You should have 16 stitches till the stitch just prior to where the stitch marker is put. So that's 1, and I'll meet you guys once I reach this spot right here. I'm just completing my last 2 single crochets. So that's 16. This completes 16 single crochets of row number 3. Now we reach this chain space where we've put this marker to represent our rectangle side. So I'm going to pull this marker out. This would actually be the chain space of our previous row, and now into this chain space we are going to go in and make a single crochet, a chain, and a single crochet. So that's 1 single crochet, we make a chain, and we go back into the same chain space and we make another single crochet. We grab our stitch marker and mark this chain space that we just made. Now into the following stitch we are going to make 1 single crochet, and into the following stitch we'll make 1 single crochet again. Right? So now we reach this stitch where we have this white marker. We'll pull this marker out. Now into that space where we had the marker, we'll make 1 single crochet. We'll go back into the same stitch and we'll make 1 more single crochet. So that's 2 single crochets in that space where we had the white marker. So now we grab our white marker and we put it into the first single crochet that we made in that white marker space. So we just made 2 single crochets and we put it into the first one. And now into the following stitch we make 1 single crochet, then we reach the space where we have the next white marker. We are going to make 2 single crochets in that space. So we go into that space, make 1 single crochet, go back into the same space and make the second single crochet. Now we grab our white marker and we put the marker into the second single crochet that we just made. So that's the last stitch that we just made. Now we will start making 1 single crochet from this corner all the way till this edge, till before we reach this white stitch marker, and then we'll follow the same stitch pattern that we did here but in reverse. I'll meet you guys here and we'll work these stitches together. You should have 15 stitches from this point till you reach this point before the stitch marker. So I'll meet you guys after you make 15 single crochets. Now that is my 15th single crochet and I've reached the first white marker on the other side. So now in the first white marker we are going to make 2 single crochets. So we pull that marker out and we go into that space and we make 2 single crochets into the same stitch. That's 1. Go back into the same stitch and make a second single crochet. Now we grab our marker and we mark the first single crochet that we made. Oops. That's this one right here. And now into the following stitch we make 1 single crochet, and now we've reached the spot where we have the next white marker. We pull that out and we make 2 single crochets in that space. So into this stitch we go and make our first single crochet, we go back into the same stitch and make our second single crochet. Now we grab our stitch marker and we mark the last stitch that we just made. So that's the second crochet into that chain space, into that stitch. Now into the next 2 stitches we are going to make 1 single crochet each till we reach this yellow chain space. And that's 1 and 2. Now into this chain space we'll pull this out first, then we'll make 1 single crochet, a chain and a single crochet into the same spot. So go into this chain space, make your single crochet, make a chain, go back into the same chain space and make another single crochet. Now grab your marker and mark this chain space that you just made. That's in between both your single crochets. So that's that. Now we have 1 stitch from the previous row remaining. We go into that and we make 1 single crochet, and to complete round 3 we slip stitch into our first single crochet of the round. You can start seeing the shape becoming more and more clearer. So now we make round 4, sorry. For that we chain once, we go back into that chain space, we go back into that stitch and we make 1 single crochet. Now we make 1 single crochet all the way to this end, to the stitch prior to the yellow marker. So I'll meet you guys once you reach this tip here. That is my last stitch before I reach the yellow marker. So in this round you should have made, this should be your 17th single crochet, and now you reach this chain space. So in this chain space, we are going to make one single crochet, a chain, and a single crochet into the same chain space. So go into that chain space, make your single crochet, make a chain, and go back into the same chain space and make one single crochet again. Now grab your stitch marker and, as per usual, mark your chain space. Now into the following 3 stitches, we are going to make one single crochet each. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Now you reach the first white marker on this row. In the first, pull this white marker out, and in that white marker space you make one single crochet, grab your marker and mark that stitch that you just made. We're not going to have any increases in this stitch. Now in the following stitch we make one single crochet again, and now in the next stitch we have an increase. So into this following stitch we have 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So that's 1, go back into the same stitch and make another single crochet. Now you have, into the following stitch you make one single crochet, pull your marker out, and into this stitch where your marker was you make one single crochet again. So that's just one single crochet in that marked spot, and you put your marker back on into the last stitch that you just made. Now you have one single crochet from this following stitch all the way to this stitch prior to this white marker. So we make one single crochet in each of these stitches till here. So that should be 15 single crochets, and I'll meet you guys once you completed this single crochet right here. I'm just at the last stitch before I reach the white stitch marker. Now into this white stitch marker space we are just going to make one single crochet like we did on the other side, and we'll mark that stitch again. Just grab that stitch, and now into the following stitch we make one single crochet, and into the following stitch we will make 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and 2 into the same stitch. So we had 2 single crochets into the same stitch there, and now we have one stitch remaining before we reach the stitch marker. We make one single crochet in this stitch, and we remove our stitch marker, and in that space we make one single crochet again. We grab our stitch marker and mark the stitch that we just made. Okay, now we have 3 stitches until we reach this chain space where we have this yellow marker. We make one single crochet in each of these stitches. So we have 3 single crochets in total. So that's 1, 2, and 3, and we've reached the chain space. We pull our yellow marker out, and in this chain space where we have the yellow marker we make one single crochet, one chain, and a single crochet into the same chain space. So that's one single crochet, one chain, and we go back into the chain space and make a single crochet. Grab your stitch marker and mark this chain space. Now we have 2 single crochets remaining to complete this row, and in each of those single crochets we make one single crochet each. So that's 1 and 2. We'll make a slip stitch into the first single crochet and complete our row. Now we start row number 5. we chain once and we go back into the same stitch and we make one single crochet. We make one single crochet all the way to the stitch before this yellow marker. I'll meet you guys back when we reach this stitch right here. So we do work these corners together. I'm just completing my last stitch before I reach the yellow stitch marker. That should be your 18th stitch. Now in this yellow stitch marker, as usual, we are going to make one single crochet, one chain and a single crochet. So into this chain space where we just had the yellow marker, we go in and we make our single crochet. Then we make a chain. We go back into the same chain space and we make our single crochet again. Now we grab our marker and we mark this chain space. Now into the following 4 stitches all the way till we reach this point right here. These 4 stitches, we are going to make one single crochet each into the stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3 and 4. So now into this white stitch marker space, we are going to make 2 single crochets. So just pull that white marker out and make 2 single crochets in that stitch right there. Now grab your stitch marker and mark the first of the 2 stitches that you just made. Now into the next stitch we make one single crochet, then into the next stitch we make one single crochet, and into the next stitch we make one single crochet again. Now into the stitch prior to this white marker we will make 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So that's 1, and we go back into the same stitch and make another stitch. So that's our increase, and we pull this white stitch marker out and we make 1 single crochet into that stitch, and we put the marker back on to that stitch. Now from this point on till this stitch marker, the stitch before the stitch marker, you'll have 1 single crochet each, so that should be 15 single crochets in this spot, in this row in between both these markers, and I'll meet you guys when you reach this end here. Just reach the last stitch before I reach this white stitch marker on the other side, and now I'll pull this stitch marker out and we make 1 single crochet into this stitch marker right into the space where the stitch marker was. So that's 1, and we grab our stitch marker and mark it. And now into the following stitch we make 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and that's 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Now into the following 3 stitches we are going to make 1 single crochet each. So that's 1, 2, 3. Now we pull this stitch marker out and we'll make 2 single crochets in that stitch. It's 1 and 2. Now grab your marker and mark the last stitch that you just made. Now into the following 4 stitches we make 1 single crochet each till we reach this chain space where we have the yellow marker. That's 1, 2, 3 and 4. And once you reach this marker, pull this marker out, and in that chain space we are going to make 1 single crochet, a chain and a single crochet again. So that's one single crochet, one chain, and one single crochet. Again, grab your yellow marker and mark this chain space like we usually do. Now into the following 3 single crochets of the previous row, we are going to make 1 single crochet each. So that's 3 single crochets now. Well, that's 1, 2, and 3. That completes row number 5, and we just slip stitch into the first first single crochet of that row. Now we make a chain, and to start the next row we go back into the same stitch and we make a single crochet. So now we make 1 single crochet into each of the stitches till we reach this yellow marker, and then we'll do these corners together. So I'll meet you guys once you reach this stitch right here. So this is the last stitch before I reach the yellow stitch marker. That should be 19 single crochets from the start point. Now as per, we into this yellow stitch marker space, that's the chain space, we make 1 single crochet, 1 chain, and a single crochet. So we go into that chain space, we make 1 single crochet, make a chain, and go back into the same chain space, and we make 1 single crochet there. Now we grab our stitch marker and mark this chain space. Now into the next 5 stitches we are going to make 1 single crochet each. That is till we reach this white stitch marker, we're going to make 1 single crochet each. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now into this white marker space, we remove this marker. Into that space we make 1 single crochet. You don't need the white markers anymore, and into the next 3 single crochets we make 1 single crochet each. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Now into the next stitch we make an increase, so we make 2 single crochets into this stitch right here. So we go into that stitch, make 1 single crochet, we go into the same stitch again, and we make 1 additional single crochet. Now we have 2 stitches until this white stitch marker, so we make 1 single crochet each into each of those stitches. It's 1 and 2. Oops. 2. Now we remove this white stitch marker, and in that marker space we make 1 single crochet. Now we'll make 1 single crochet each in each of these stitches till we reach this stitch marker right here. So that should be 15 additional stitches. I'll meet you guys before I've reached this stitch marker, right? I've just reached the last stitch before this white stitch marker. Now I'm going to pull this stitch marker out, and I'm going to make 1 single crochet in that space. Into the following 2 stitches we are going to make 1 single crochet each. So now that's 1, and that's another 1 into the next stitch. So that's 2 single crochets. Oops. Now into the following stitch we are going to have an increase where we make 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So that's 1, and we go back into the same stitch and we make another single crochet. Now we have 3 stitches until we reach the white stitch marker again. We make 1 single crochet into each of those 3 stitches. It's 1, that's 2, and 3. Now we pull this white stitch marker out and we make 1 single crochet in that space, and now till we have 5 single crochets till we reach this yellow stitch marker space. So we make 1 single crochet in each of those 5 stitches. 2, 4, 5. Now we've reached this space where we have the yellow stitch marker. We pull the stitch marker out, and in that chain space we make 1 single crochet, 1 chain, and a single crochet. So we go into that chain space, we make 1 single crochet, we make a chain, and we go back into the same stitch and we make 1 single crochet again. Now we grab this yellow marker and we put it back into this chain space. Now we have 4 single crochets remaining from the previous row. We make 1 single crochet into each of those stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we slip stitch into our first single crochet of the row. This completes our base. Now if you see, let me just realign this camera. You can see the D shape very clearly, and that completes the base. You can see that I've removed the markers from the front, but I've left the markers of this corner intact. It's just so that we know that's the corner and we'll need it for when we complete this bag and when we go reach the top. Now grab your second color yarn. I'm going to grab my pink yarn and I'll meet you guys back to show you how we start the next row and we start the bag, and we'll work on this base. You can see I have my base and I also have the second color yarn with me here. Now that was where we made our slip stitch of row number 6 for the base. Now we are just going to work into the back loops of the last row. Now just pull up this loop a little long, go into the back loop only and pull your yarn and make a single crochet. We are just going to work 2 more single crochet into the following 2 stitches, the back loops only. So go into the back loop only, pull up your loop and make your single crochet. Do that one more time. So that completes 3 single crochets. Now for the 4th single crochet, we are going to go into the back loop, pull up our loop and keep it as is. Now I like to pull this brown yarn in front and hold it with my thumb so that the loops don't get loose. Now grab your second yarn and pull up a loop. Right, so now you have pulled your yarn through and you've also changed color. Now we go back into the back loop only of the next stitch and pull up your pink yarn. Now you have this brown and you have the tail of the pink yarn in between your stitches, so you're going to make a single crochet such that it hides the pink and the brown yarn. You're going to carry your yarn when you're changing colors, so we're carrying our brown yarn forward and we're hiding this tail. So now we go into the next stitch of the back loop only, hide these 2, pull up the pink loop and hold it. Now we only need 2 pink stitches, so we're going to change colors now. Bring this pink loop in front, hold it with your thumb. Oops, sorry, it just got twisted. Pull your pink loop in front, hold it with your thumb and pull the brown yarn back. You can tighten this one a little and then hold it with your thumb so it doesn't get loose. Now pull up a loop with the brown yarn. So that completes 2 pink stitches and you've got changed your color again. Now we go back into the back loop of the following stitch and we'll hide this tail, and now we'll carry this pink yarn forward with us and we'll pull up this brown loop and we'll make 1 single crochet. Make sure you hide this yarn well, right? Now we go into the next stitch, the back loop only. We'll carry our pink yarn forward and we'll make 1 single crochet. Now into the next stitch, we'll go into that and we'll make a single crochet. Now for the 4th stitch, we go into the 4th stitch, the back loop only, pull up this brown yarn, a loop of the brown yarn. Now we bring this brown yarn forward and hold it with our thumb. Now we take this pink yarn back and we pull up a loop and complete our single crochet. Okay, so now that completes 4 brown single crochets. So now we are going to make 2 pink single crochets. So first we are going to go into the back loop only, hide this brown yarn, pull up a pink loop and complete our single crochet. And for the next one, we go into the following stitch, back loop only, pull up a pink loop. Now we switch yarns, so we just bring our pink yarn forward under the needle and pull this brown yarn back and pull up a loop with the brown yarn. So that completes 2 pink stitches, and into the following stitch we make 3 single crochets and we'll carry this pink yarn with us, hiding it so that we can change color later. So that's 2, 3, and for the 4th stitch we are going to change color. Again we go into the back loop, pull up this brown loop, switch yarns, pull up this loop and continue making the next 2 pink stitches. So that's 1 and 1 more. Switch yarns, now 4 brown single crochets, 1 more, and we reach the corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this yellow pin out and I am going to make my single crochet in this space. I'm just going to do it in the back loop like we did for every other stitch. So that's a 3rd single crochet, and I'm going to mark this stitch again. I'm going to keep this marker in that same stitch so that I know that's the corner stitch. And now for the 4th single crochet, we go into this back loop of the next stitch, pull up our brown loop, swap yarns, and pull up the pink yarn. In case your stitch gets loose, just pull it tight and keep it in place. Now go into the next stitch and make your pink stitch. We continue doing this. We'll alternate with 2 pink stitches and 4 brown stitches, and we'll carry our yarn through all the way till we reach the end of this row. So once you come all the way to this point, and we'll have our last 2 stitches will be 2 pink stitches. I'll meet you guys right there, and make sure you keep this marker in as well, like the same way we did here. So I'll meet you guys once I reach this spot right here. I'm just making the last stitch of this row. I've pulled up 2 loops of the pink yarn, swap colors, and now we slip stitch into the first stitch of this row, of this round actually, and make sure your slip stitch is tight and quite invisible. The smaller it is, the tighter it is, the more invisible it is. Right, so now we are going to start the next round. So we've pulled up this loop. We are going to skip the first stitch, and into the second stitch right here we are going to work 2 single crochets, but we are not going to pull up these 2 loops and work our single crochet. Instead, we go into this V right here. In between this, we'll put our hook in between this and we'll work our single crochet. So what the difference is if you pull these 2 loops up at the back, you would see that you only pull these 2 loops, and that's how it will look. Your needle will come out through these 2 loops here. But if you work into this V right here, if you work into this V, if you put your hook in between this V over here of that stitch and you look behind, you will see that you come up in between these stitches and under both these loops. So your needle will be under this loop and this loop, like so. So if you put your stitch through this one, this is how it will look. It will be in between these 2 stitches but under the second bump as well. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to pull up this loop. Grab your brown yarn, skip the first stitch, and into the second stitch down here into this V, we are going to insert our hook there and make sure we come out behind. You can see that we've come under both these loops. We pull up a loop with our brown yarn and we make a single crochet. So that's our first stitch of the second row. Now we go back into the same spot, into the same space, and we make 1 more single crochet. So we have 2 single crochets in this V space right here. Now we'll skip the next stitch, and into the stitch after that we are going to go back into this V space right here. Make sure you go into this V space over here and come out through this part where your needle, if you see, it will be under both these loops and in between these V. So now go back to the front, we skip the first stitch and then we into the following stitch into this V right here. We insert our hook and we pull up a brown yarn and we make a single crochet. We need to make 1 more brown single crochet, but we're going to change yarns in between. So we go back into the same space, pull up a brown yarn, brown loop, change our yarn color, pick up the pink yarn, pull up your loop, complete the 4th brown single crochet, and now we skip the first stitch and then into the following one, into this V right here. We go into that space. Now if you see from behind, you're under both these loops. We pull up a pink loop and we make 1 single crochet. Now we go back into the same space in between both the V and we pull up a pink loop again, but this time we don't complete the single crochet yet. We change yarn and complete it with the brown loop. So now you have 2 pink and stitches complete. Now you have your brown loop because we've changed color. Now we skip the first brown stitch, we into the second brown stitch into this V right here. We insert our hook pull it behind, pull up the brown loop. We are carrying our pink yarn, remember, and we make our first single crochet. Then we go back into the same space, into that V space, and we make another single crochet with the brown yarn. So that's 2 single crochets in the same spot. Now we skip the following stitch, and into the stitch after that we go back into this V right here, and we make our brown single crochet. Now for the next bit, we're going to change yarn, go back into that V space and pull up your brown loop, swap colors, and complete your stitch. So that's 4 single crochets. Now skip the following stitch, and the stitch after that go into this V space right here and make your single crochet. Now go back into the same space and pull up your pink loop, swap colors, and make your single crochet again. Complete your single crochet, that is. Now we continue doing this 4 brown single crochets into the V space. So we skip 1 stitch, and into the second stitch in this V space right here we make our single crochet. So we make 2 single crochets into that space, we skip the following stitch, and into the stitch after that we make 2 single crochets in that V space. We'll change color in between like we did in the first row, and we'll make 2 pink single crochets and then 4 brown single crochets, and then we continue that all the way till we reach this end right here. I'll meet you guys at the end and I'll show you how we start the next row. So I have reached the last 2 stitches. I'm just going to make my pink stitch right here, the 2 stitches of this row, this one, and go back into that V. I'm going to swap colors and end this row. So I'm going to go back into the first single crochet of this row, and I'm going to make a slip stitch. Oops. Just make sure that your pink yarn is always in between. And I've made my slip stitch. Now for the next row, pull up this loop. Now skip the first stitch, go into the second stitch. Your row is always going to be this way. Your row is always going to end in this 2 pink stitches, and you're going to start your next row with this brown stitch every single time. So you pull up this loop, skip the first stitch, into the second stitch, go into this V right here and pull up your loop. Oops. And make your first single crochet and go back into the same V and make your second single crochet. So every row of yours is going to start with this slip stitch into the first stitch, which will be brown, and 2 brown single crochets, and then 2 more into the next stitch. So now we go into the skip the following stitch, and into the stitch after that we go into this V right here and we make our single crochet. Then we go into the same stitch again, and we change colors and complete our single crochet. Now we skip the first stitch, and in the following stitch we make our pink stitches. That's 1, and we go into the same stitch, come out, change colors, make our single crochet, skip the following stitch and into the stitch after that. So we're going to go into this V. So instead, when you put your needle into this V, just make sure instead of going above this pink yarn, go under this pink yarn as well. This is the hidden pink yarn that we've been carrying forward. So this is the one from the previous row. Just go under that and make sure you hide it well. So in that way, when you pick this up, see, like this stitch right here, I've left this pink yarn down so it's visible, but now I've pulled it up with this stitch so it gets hidden. So just go back into the same stitch and make a single crochet. So if it gets difficult for you to find to go under the pink yarn, just keep a needle with you, a tapestry or any other needle, and make space. So just poke your needle under this pink yarn and into this V. Make space for your hook and make sure your hook goes into that space. So go back into the space and make your stitch. Right now for the fourth stitch, we change colors. This in front, make sure you keep pulling the loops and that the pink yarn is not really visible at the back. In case you do feel it's visible, just tighten it a little and it'll disappear. So you should not really have to be able to see any of the yarn behind because you're carrying it forward, and your work will also keep turning up. Let me just complete this stitch and I'll show you the pattern starting to arise. So now you can start seeing this pattern where this line is going slightly cross, and you're starting to see this line pattern, and that's going to be how it's going to look. You're going to continue doing this all around for a total of 25 rows. So now we're on row 3. You make 22 more rows after you complete this third row. So that'll come up to 25 rows, and then I'll see you guys once I finish 25 rows. Don't cut your yarn yet. I'll tell you what we're going to do. So I'll see you guys at the end of row 25. I'm just completing my last stitch of row 25. Change my yarn and slip stitch into the first stitch of that row. Now I'm going to fasten this yarn off. I'm going to also cut it. So we are done with this row. We don't have to worry about this for now. You can also cut your pink yarn. That's how the pouch looks as of now. We haven't completed it as yet, so don't worry about it, but you can start seeing that the back is straighter while the front has a nice curve to it. It will have more definition once you put the zip on and the top on, but that's how it looks. And yeah, this pouch is about 3.5 inches long. If you wanted to make it longer, you of course can just continue making the same pattern till you reach the height that you want. But since it's just for some small cosmetics or some other small things to put inside your bag, I've made it only 4 inch. The whole pouch will complete to be only 4 inches long. Okay, so now you remember this bottom markers that we put. We have to find the stitch on top that coincides with this stitch. I find it easy to just lay a flat surface against this stitch and find the stitch that aligns with this one on the other side. So if I align it like so, my first pink stitch right here aligns with this corner stitch, So I'm just going to grab a stitch marker and mark that stitch, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. That one coincides with this first stitch, so I'm just going to mark. This is trust me, this is the easiest way to mark your stitch if you're going to keep going up, because it's going across. It's very difficult to find the stitch that aligns by counting. This is the easiest way, and it does turn out to be exactly right. So now what we are going to do is we are going to put the zip on. My zip is about well, the visible part will be about half to a little more than half an inch, so about 6/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make rows to the zip wall. It's going to come from this pointer all the way around till this point. So now this part of the back is just going to be plain. We're not going to have a zip over there. So I'm going to make the same, continue making the same pattern from this corner to this corner for the height of the zip. So if the zip was going to go around this corner, it would come up till that, and maybe about 3 or 4 rows. I think 3 rows will be just right. So we'll make that. I'll show you how we do that. So grab your yarn and I'll meet you guys back here. So now we are facing the we're looking at the back side of the pouch, and we're facing the right corner where we've put the marker aligning to the base corner of the pouch. So now, since this corner starts with a pink stitch, it doesn't matter which stitch it starts from, but it's easier to show you. Since it starts with a pink stitch, you can see that every time you start a stitch, it moves a little to the left. So now this pink stitch would, for the next row, would move to the left, to a little to the left. So your first stitch should be the stitch prior to the mark that we have just put. So it should be this brown one. So what we will do is we'll insert our hook into this V over here of this single crochet, like we usually make the single crochet in this one, for this pattern, and we'll pull up a loop and make a slip stitch so that we can secure our yarn. Now we go back into the same space and we'll make one single crochet, but we won't complete it as yet because we want to change our yarn color. Now grab this yarn, grab the next color yarn, and pull up a pink loop. Now what we are going to do is I'm going to remove the stitch marker, and I'm going to work both 2 single crochets into the pink stitch like we usually would when we were going around things. So go into this V part of this pink stitch and make 1 single crochet. Now go back into the same stitch and pull up your loop, but don't complete it as yet. Swap yarns, and skip a stitch and go back into the second brown stitch and under the V like we usually would. So under that, hide the tails of your stitches. Even if it pops out, it doesn't matter, we can just weave it in later. Make 2 single crochets there, skip a stitch and go into the next stitch and make 2 single crochets again. So the second one we don't complete it, we change yarn and we do that. So now we go back again, we skip 1 pink stitch and go into the second pink stitch and make our single crochet. We continue doing that till we reach this marker here. So just make 2 single crochets of the pink one and when you're doing so, when you come here, just weave your yarn in along with your stitches so that you don't have to do it later. So I'll meet you guys back when you reach this point right here, and then we'll do the rest of them together. I'm just completing my second pink stitch before the marker. So I made one pink stitch and this is my second one, and I'm going to change yarns. And like when we started, we added one stitch over here. Now we are going to reduce one stitch over here. So what we'll do for the last one, we are not going to make a single crochet in that spot. We are just going to chain once and pull this marker out. Go into this first stitch after your pink stitch and make a slip stitch. So that completes that row. Now if you see, it looks neat and it looks straight. We're doing this just because your stitches keep going diagonally across, so it almost is like you need one stitch less when you're going every row. So that's why we did that. And now we are going to go back to this part and start our stitches. If you prefer, you can carry your yarn all the way here, but I think it just makes the stitch very bulky because you're already carrying one yarn through. So I prefer just cutting this yarn off over here and starting afresh with the yarn over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm going to just fasten off, actually which I haven't done yet, and I'm going to cut my yarn, both my yarns actually, and tighten it. I'm going to cut the pink one as well, and I'll weave in these ends later once we finish all our sides, because we'll have multiple yarn endings over here, so we can weave them all in later. And now we come back to this part. So grab your brown yarn. Now we go into this V of this stitch, pull up our brown loop and make a slip stitch. Now we go back into the same stitch, we'll make one single crochet, we go back into the same stitch and we'll make one more single crochet, but we won't complete it. Now we'll just hold on to this yarn, grab our second yarn and pull up a loop, and go skip the first stitch and into the second stitch, this V, we'll make our pink stitch. We'll make one more into the same space, we won't complete it, swap yarn, complete the single crochet. Now we go skip one stitch and into the second one right here, we go in and we make 2 single crochets. Now I'm going to continue making this till I reach this last few stitches, and I'll meet you guys back here. So I've completed the 4 brown single crochets and I've changed my yarn. I've come to this last 2 pink single crochets, the 2 pink spot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into this pink space like we usually would, and I'm going to make only 1 single crochet and fasten off and cut my yarn. I also cut my brown yarn, and that completes our next row. Now for the next row, grab your brown yarn, we go into the first single crochet that we just made. So we don't go into the V down here, we just pick up the 2 loops on top and make our slip stitch. Now we go into the same, pick up the same, go under the same 2 loops and make a regular single crochet. Now we go into the next stitch, and like we do every other stitch, we go into this V over here, we go into this center spot and we'll make our first single crochet, and we'll make one more single crochet, but we will not complete it. We will change yarn, so bring your brown yarn ahead, change loop and go into this pink stitch and make your single crochet. And we make one more single crochet. We won't complete it, we'll change our yarn, and we'll complete the single crochet. And now we'll go into this spot right here, and continue with our pattern till we reach the end of this row. So once you reach this point around the last 2 stitches of the brown one, I'll meet you guys right here. Okay, I have reached the end of the row. I have made 2 brown stitches and I have 1 more stitch to go. I finished 1, and now for the next one, since in the previous row we made 1 pink stitch, technically we shouldn't be making any pink stitches now. So what we'll do is we'll go into the same stitch and we'll make our brown single crochet, the last one for this round. But instead of just completing it, we will swap yarn, make a chain with the pink yarn, and now we will slip stitch into the pink stitch of the previous row. So we go down there and we'll slip stitch. And fasten off. Cut the yarn. And cut the other yarn as well. Yeah. So that completes that row. And you can start seeing that it ends it's quite straight. So every time you add a row, you add 1 stitch to this end and you decrease 1 stitch on this end. But so yeah, so the number of stitches on every row will be the same. So that should be 27 stitches. This chain and a slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch, so you have 27 stitches on top. We have 1 more row to go. We will start in this stitch right here. So in the first single crochet, we go into the V part of that single crochet. It's hard to find, but that's the V. I'm going to go into that V, grab my brown yarn and make a slip knot, slip stitch. Right, now we go back into that V and we'll make 2 single crochets in that space. So that's 1 and another 1 in the same space. Now we'll skip a stitch and into the second V, second stitch, we go into the V here and we'll make our single crochet, and we go back into the same stitch. We'll make one more single crochet, but we won't complete it. We'll change colors. Pull up a loop and into this stitch here, make our first single crochet, the pink one, and then we go back in and make another one. Don't complete it, change yarn, and we continue doing that till we reach the end of the row. So I'll meet you guys when I reach the end of this row, and I'll tell you how we end the row next. Okay, I've almost reached the end of the row, and I've made 2 brown single crochets. Now into the last stitch, we only have to make 1 single crochet to complete this row. So we go into this stitch and we make 1 single crochet. This time we do not fasten off and cut the yarn. Instead we fasten off, but just pull up a long loop, a long tail, and cut your yarn. I usually like to leave 3 times the length of 3 to 4 times the length of my yarn, because we're going to use this yarn to stitch the top to this base. So I'm going to cut my yarn here. I'm going to leave long tail. So after we've completed 4 rows at the back, our pouch will look something like this. I'm going to weave in these tails except for this long one. Oh, I forgot to cut this pink yarn off. Yeah, so we should just have 1 long brown tail, and you weave in all the rest of this small yarn in, and I will meet you guys to make the top of this pouch. Now for the top of the bag, I have replicated the D-shaped base that we made for the pouch, and that is 6 rounds of that D, and I've made my slip stitch and I've kept it ready. So if you want a help as to how to make that, just go back to where we make the base of the pouch and do exactly the same thing for 6 rows. Mark your corners and meet me back here. So once you've replicated the base and you've made your slip stitch, we'll make like we did for the pouch. We will work only in the back loops, and we'll make 1 single crochet each in each of the stitches. So we are not going to change colors for the top of the bag. We are just going to go into each of these back loops and make 1 single crochet each. So just go into that and make 1 single crochet each. Make sure you keep your marker on and make a single crochet throughout, and I'll meet you guys when you reach this spot right here. I just have 2 stitches remaining of that row. So I work my last stitch of that row, and now I slip stitch into the first single crochet of this row. Now we go back into the same stitch, pull up a loop and make a single crochet, and now we make 1 single crochet into each of the stitches. So just go in, just pick up make a regular single crochet by picking up these 2 loops on top. We are not going into the V in the bottom, we're just going to pick up these 2 loops on top and make our single crochet. So that's just a regular single crochet under the 2 loops. So continue making your single crochet, and I'll meet you guys when you reach the end of this row. When you reach the end of this row, just complete your stitch and slip stitch into the first stitch of that row and fasten your yarn and cut it. So that completes the top of your bag, of your pouch, and we will sew this on onto the base. But before we do that, we still have a little components to complete. To make the small handle to place on the lid of the pouch, we grab our pink yarn, make a slip knot, and make 25 working chains. So that's my 25 working chains. Now I'll make one additional chain that doesn't count as a stitch, it's just our turning chain. Now for this particular section, I would prefer that you work on the back bump of the chains. You'll know why I say that, because for the next round we'll just work on one side of this thing, and it will look much neater when you work on the back bumps and then you have these chains on the other side to work with. So if you can, just try working that way. It'll just make your work look much neater. So now into the second chain from the hook, I'm going to start making our single crochets. So into the back bump, I'm going to insert my hook and I'm going to make my single crochet. And I'm going to make one single crochet into each of the chains and the back bump till I reach the end. So I will have 25 single crochets. I'll meet you guys back when I've completed my 25 single crochets. So I'm on my last 2 stitches of this row. That's 24 and 25. Once you're done, what you do is pull up this loop and go into this first stitch of the row and just go under that loop, pull up your loop and make a slip stitch. Now you can fasten off and cut your yarn. If you see, you can see that this is the chains that we had made, and these are the single crochet. This is the side of the single crochet, and both of them look identical. You can't really tell them apart. That's why I told you to I said it's preferable if you work on the back bumps of the chains. This kind of gives that mirror image kind of thing, and it makes your work look very neat. So now when we make the second row, you'll realize that we are actually going to only work into the back loops for round 2, and you'll realize that it'll look very neat as opposed to when you work on one side of the chain to make the single crochets. So now for round 2, let's just grab our brown yarn and we can get started. So now I have my brown yarn, and this is where we made our slip stitch. That's the yarn. So now we go back into the same stitch where we made the slip stitch, but we only go under the back loop of that stitch, and we'll pull up a yarn loop of the brown yarn and make a slip stitch there. Okay, now we are going to work only in the back loops of all the stitches. So we go into the back loop only of this stitch, and we will make a single crochet. I'm going to hide my tail as we weave. I'm going to go into the next stitch in the back loop only, and I'm going to make another single crochet. I'm going to continue making single crochets in the back loops only of this side of the row until I reach the end of this row. So when I reach the end of this row, I should have 25 single crochets in the back loops only with the brown yarn. So I'll meet you guys back when you've completed 25 single crochets on this side. I just have 2 stitches remaining on this side. That's my 24th and 25th stitch so far since we started this row. Now I'm going to turn our work like so, and I'm going to make a chain. Now into this space into this single crochet right here, you can see this side loop. I'm just going to go under one of the side loops and I'm going to make one single crochet. Now if you can see, this is our turning chain for row 1. This is the inner loop and this is the outer loop. We're going to go into the back loop of that chain and we are going to make 2 single crochets in that space. So that's 1, and we go back into the same space and we make 1 more single crochet. So that's a total of 3 single crochets. Now we turn our work like so and make 1 chain. Now we start working into these single crochet stitches of the pink colored yarn. Now we go back into the back loop of the first stitch and we make a single crochet, and we'll continue making 1 single crochet into each of these stitches, the back loops only, until we reach the end of this row. I'll meet you guys back when we reach the end of this row here. I just have 2 more stitches remaining on this side of the row. It's 1 and 2. That's the last one, and that completes this side for me. Now, like we did on the other side, we'll turn our work like so, make a chain, and we'll go into this side loop of the single crochet that we just did, and we'll make 1 single crochet. Now if you see closely, this is the loop that we slip stitched into the first stitch of the first row. So we just go into the back loop of this loop and we'll make 1 single crochet. Now we'll go into this chain space of the first stitch. If you can go under that, great. It's a little tight for me. Just go under that and make a single crochet there. Now we make 1 chain, and you can slip stitch into this first stitch right here. I actually like to cut my yarn, pull this loop out and make a false kind of stitch on top of this so it looks neat. So this is our chain. I'm just going to keep it loose. That's not supposed to be our fastening off stitch. Now I'm going to pull this loop like so. This is our first stitch. This is our second stitch of that row. I'm going to go under the second stitch of this row, under both the loops, and pull this out from the front, pull this yarn out from front to the back. Now I'm going to get this yarn back to this chain space right here and put my hook from under this chain, and I'm going to pull my hook out to the front. Now I'm going to grab this yarn, put it over my hook and pull it under this chain space in between. So now that doesn't look like a slip stitch, but instead it just looks like a continuous stitch. So because it's going to sit on top and it's going to be visible, I would like for it to be neat. If we'd made a slip stitch, you'd just have a small bump over there. I like to make it like this. You can simply just slip stitch into this space and it'll still be fine. Now I'm going to weave in all my ends and I'll see you for the next bit. Now we're going to make the handle for the bag. It's just going to be long enough to go around the wrist. So for me, I'm going to make a total of 76 chains. If you want to make it longer, just make any number of chains. Just make sure that they're multiples of 2. So I'm going to make 76 chains. That is a total of 76 chains for me. Now I'm going to block off my 76th chain. That's the last one. I'm going to make 3 additional chains. Now this time, this chain, we're just going to consider all these 3 chains as a stitch. Now we yarn over, skip these 3 stitches, and into the chain that we blocked off, that is the 4th chain from the hook, I'm going to make 1 double crochet. Okay, so now that is considered as 2 double crochets right next to each other. Now we chain once, we yarn over, we skip the following stitch, and into the stitch after that we go into this chain and we make our double crochet. So we're going to chain it once again, yarn over, skip the following stitch, and into the stitch after that we are going to make a double crochet. We're going to keep doing that. Chain 1, yarn over, skip 1 stitch, and into the following stitch we make 1 double crochet. We're going to keep doing this until we reach the end of the chain. I'll meet you guys back when I've completed my double crochets all the way to the end of this chain. I've almost reached the end of this row. I have made 1 double crochet and I have 3 chains remaining. So I chain once, yarn over, skip 1 stitch, and into the next one we make 1 double crochet. Now we don't make a chain, we just yarn over, and we just have 1 chain remaining, and into this last stitch we make 1 double crochet. So now you should have a long chain for the strap. Now just grab the other end of the strap and put the 2 wrong sides together. Just make sure that it is straight. Turn it around, put the 2 wrong sides together, and make a chain. Now the double crochet that we just made, go into that double crochet, go under the 3 chains on the other side, and make a single crochet. Now go into the center of this double crochet, just go under it or go anywhere in between. I'm just going to go under it, and I'm going to go under the 3 chains on the other side, grab both of them, pull up a loop, and make a single crochet. Now for this 3rd single crochet, you see this chain space that we made the double crochet in. I'm going to go into that chain space. So under that is under this 2 loop, that's the 1st chain. I'm going to go under that, and I'm going to go under the chain space on the back side, the 3 chain space, and I'm going to pull up a loop, and I'm just going to make my single crochet. I'm also going to pull this yarn out, tail, and I'm going to weave it in the next row. So now you chain once, turn your work around, and we're going to work on in the 3 single crochets that we just made. Go into this first single crochet and make 1 single crochet. Now go into the next single crochet and make another single crochet, that is. Now into the 3rd we make another single crochet. So now that's your strap, and you've just pinched them together. The strap is nice, light and airy and flexible, and it'll go around your wrist comfortably. If you want it bigger, just make it bigger, longer I mean. Now fasten off. Don't cut your yarn too short. Leave quite a bit of tail and cut your yarn. So I'm just going to leave maybe about 7 inches of this yarn and cut it off. And I'm going to pull my yarn out so that we can sew this on to the pouch. So that's how the strap looks. We can sew this on to the pouch later. Just weave in this little yarn or cut it out so that it's out of the way and it's not going to be a thing. So I'll meet you in the next bit. For the first part of the assembly, I have the lid and this strip of handle that we had crocheted on earlier. I have attached one side of the strap to the lid. We are going to attach the other side together. So grab your hook and your yarn and let's get started. Before I attach this part to this section, I'm going to show you where exactly we are going to attach these straps to the sides. So first, let me identify the stitches that I'm going to use. So now this is our corner stitch. This is actually the chain stitch. If you've made it like me, we are going to slip stitch only on the back loops. So we are going to start from that corner over here. Then we have three single crochets of this row. We're going to use those, and then we're going to end on this corner stitch for this side. Then we're going to flip our work, and we are going to work into the 3 stitches after that corner. So that's 1, 2 and 3. We mark that, and the same way on this side we will mark the 3rd stitch from this corner. So we are going to work around these 4 corners of the strap. Now where is it going to sit on this flap now? Let's see that. So now first, our first stitch is going to go around the 3rd row. So now this is your first row, that is your 2nd row, and this right here is your 3rd row. Now for the 3rd row, we find the corner of the 3rd row exactly like this one. So this stitch right here is the corner. So these two, this V over here is your corner stitch. We can work into any one of these stitches over here. So we're going to work into one. We're going to start working from this stitch. Then that's going to coincide with the chain stitch. Then we have 3 other stitches, and then we have another chain stitch over here. So that's a total of 5 stitches. So we're going to work into this first stitch right here. That's 1. This is the next stitch. 2, 3, 4 and 5. So this corner stitch right here will be where the 5th stitch goes. Okay, let's mark that as well. So now you have these 2 corners done. Now you have 2 more corners. I'm just going to pull these markers out. So now you have, after this corner you have 3 stitches. So that's this corner, and we turn our work like so, and we will start working across these stitches. So since this is our corner stitch, or maybe you'll have it slightly further down because there are 2 stitches in that row, so you can pick this row. It depends on where it sits. There's no exact spot that it should fit. If your strap goes slightly wider, just use that stitch like I've done here. I've used this stitch, this corner stitch here. Now I'm going to then start crocheting on these stitches. So now since there are 2 stitches here, again you can pick this or this. It depends on where your stitch is going to align. So wherever the first stitch aligns, whether it's this one or this one, just pick one of the loops in that one, and then we will start working 3 stitches across these loops over here. And then we will start working on the loops across. So just under this stitch, start picking up loops. If this was where the last stitch ended, this stitch right here, and we only pick 1 loop. So if these 2 stitches, any one of these loops were the last ones, you start picking the loops just below that for the last row. So that one, and after that you can pick one of this right here, and then this one, and lastly we can pick this one right here. So that'll be the 5th stitch, and then if you work across, you'll have 3 stitches and you'll reach the corner. So that's perfect, right? So if you want, we can mark this stitch right here for identification, and this stitch right here. So you have 3 stitches here, 3 here, 3 here, and you have 3 here. So that makes a square, and we can attach this to this piece. So I'm just going to pull these markers out from the strap so it's easier to see. So now insert your hook first into this first stitch right here. So I'm going to pull this pin out, insert my hook under that loop, grab your yarn and pull up a loop in that spot. If you want, you can make a slip knot and continue. I don't like to make a slip knot because it makes a bump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this bump. I'm going to pull the back yarn behind this tail behind so that I can weave it in later. So I'm just going to leave this tail over here for now, and I'm going to work with this yarn. I'm just going to hold it with my finger so that it doesn't come out of place. I'm going to grab this strap, place it on this space. Now I'm going to make this loop a little loose. Now I'm going to go into this chain space, this corner chain space, just under the back loop only, and pull this loop through. Now I'm going to go into the next stitch, the back loop only, and like we had already discussed, I'm going to go under the loop of this next stitch, and I'm going to pull up a loop, come through that stitch there, come through the back loop of this strap, the stitch on the strap, and make a slip stitch. I'm going to go into the back loop of the following stitch, and I'm going to go under one of the loops of the next stitch. That's right here. Pull up a loop, pull through that stitch, pull through the back loop of my strap, and make a slip stitch. I have a third stitch in this row. That's the one. So I go under the back loop of the stitch, I go into one of these loops. I'm just going to grab a needle because it's tied. So if your stitch is tied, grab a needle or grab another thinner hook and just insert your needle or hook there and pull this loop up a little so it's easier for your needle to go in. Now you grab the yarn, pull up a loop, pull through the stitch in front and make a slip stitch. Now you reach this corner chain space. I go into the back loop of that chain space. Now this hooks that we've just marked with this marker, I'm going to grab only one of those loops. You can grab any one of the loops, whichever aligns with your stitch over here. So if you place it like so, it should align with your stitches, and that's this one for me. I'm just going to go under that stitch, and under that loop in that stitch. It's tight, so use the needle to help you out a little. Grab a loop, pull up the loop from both and make your slip stitch. Now you turn your work like so. Now you go into the following stitch here, right here, just the back loop only, and now we are going to work into the stitches on this side. So I'm going to go under this stitch right here, going to pull up this loop. Like I said, there's no exact spot that you have to put the needle in and pull it out. You just have to make sure that these stitches align and your slip stitch is following just on top of the stitches that you have over here, and your rectangle or the square that you're making on top of this thing is flat. It sits flat and straight, so it looks neat. So whichever stitch aligns with this stitch on top over here, just go under that, go under the loops of that stitch and make your stitches. That's how I've done it, and I'm just showing you so that it's easier. So I'm just going under the neck. I'm going to do the next stitch. and I'm going to do the next one before I reach the last. So now this is my last stitch, the third one. For that, now we have this marker here. I'm just pulling that out, and I'm going to work into this loop because that's what's aligning with my stitch. So that's 3. Now I'm going to flip my work like so, and if you see, I have worked a line of chains around across this stitch over here. So that's exactly what we're going to do over here now. So now first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my hook into this space right here, so under this stitch. So this is where my let me just get that right. Okay, so this is the stitch that we've just worked into, so I'm going to go under that stitch. This is the lower part of the stitch. I'm just going to insert my hook under that space, and if you look under that, now I'm going to work under this loop. That's the stitch where we've just made our last stitch. That's the stitch. Now I'm going to go under this loop right here, or actually this one right here, this one right here, pull up a loop, pull the loop through this space and make a slip stitch. Now I'm going to go in between both these lines. So you can see this line over here and you can see this line over here. I'm just going to insert my hook anywhere in between, wherever it's comfortable, wherever it goes in, just so that it looks like a square. And now I'm going to go under one of these loops, the next stitch, let me just get my yarn to this side. I'm going to make a slip. I'm going to just pull up a loop under that stitch and pull up the loop over the strap, and I'm going to make a slip stitch. So in case your stitch is loose over here, just hold on to both these loops and tighten this loop by pulling on this loop. So you can see that it tightens up. Now just make your slip stitch, make it look as neat as possible. Right, so now we go into this stitch right here. So that's the third one. Like this side, we will go under this stitch right here, go under one of these stitches, pull up a loop, pull the loop through the strap and make a slip stitch. Now for the last side, the fourth stitch from the corner. So that's your chain stitch, 1, 2 and 3. That's the third stitch. So now we only take the back loop and we are going to go under these loops over here, pull the stitch out, marker out, go under this loop. So I'm going to go in like so. Pull up a loop, pull the loop through and make your slip stitch. So now you have 4 straight slip stitches over here. Now you go under this, then you go under the back loop of the next stitch and go under one of the loops, pull up a loop and make a slip stitch. You do one more before we reach the corner. Once you reach the corner, you go back into the same stitch where we did the last slip stitch, or you can go into a new new space. I'm just going to go to the new space right here. Oops, the struggle's real. Okay, go under that loop and make your slip stitch. Okay, so now I'm just going to pull this loop through like so, and I'm going to insert this yarn. I'm going to put my needle from the back to the front like so. I'm going to grab this yarn, pull it behind, and I'll weave it in. You can make a knot with the starting yarn and weave it in. So now both the sides are complete. I'll meet you for the next part of the assembly. There you go. For the next assembly part, I have the base of the pouch, the lid, and I have threaded the tapestry needle with the thread that we had ended on the back of the pouch. So now we're going to join this. First, grab this lid of your pouch and look at the back side. So we have these corner stitches marked. I didn't take them off because I want to mark the corner stitches on the below part as well. So I want to find the corner stitch over here. So this is the corner stitch. My stitch goes in here, and this is my corner stitch right here, and you find your corner stitch right here as well. So this one and this one, you should have 27 stitches including these two markers. You can take these markers out, the previous two markers, we don't need them anymore. So now once you find these two corners, you should have 27 stitches in between, and we are going to join these two pieces. So now flip your work, face the back side of the pouch and face this side, back side of your lid. Now we are going to join these two ends to this part. So now grab your needle and turn them like so. So now this is the corner stitch. I'm just going to pull this stitch marker out. Now the needle is coming out of this thread loop over here. So if this is my corner stitch, I'm just going to go into the outer loop of my corner stitch, and I'm going to pull this needle out. So I went from top to bottom and pull this needle out. Now the same way, I'm going to go into the outer loop of this stitch over here and pull it out. I'm just doing that so that these two sides are secure. Now we go back into the same loop on the lid, that's the corner stitch. We insert a hook needle from the front and pull it out from the next stitch. So now we insert it from the back stitch. This is where we made the first loop in. Insert it from that stitch, get it to the front stitch, and from in between we just pull it out like so, and tighten your stitch. Now we go back into the first stitch of this side, and we come out, we go in from the front, and we come out of the back loop only of the following stitch. So that one, if you find it hard, just go in like so in the first stitch, pull your yarn through and get your needle out of the second stitch. So this is the first stitch, this is your second stitch. We're going to get the needle out of this stitch right here. So we're going to zigzag into these stitches. Now you go back into the second stitch and come out of the third stitch. we're going to keep doing that. We keep going back into the stitch that we just made our stitch into, and then we come out of the front of the stitch after that, like so, and pull our needle. Once we finish on the back side, we go back to the lid, we go back to the stitch that we just made our stitch into, and we come out. So this is the stitch we just made our stitch into. We go back into that and come out of the new stitch in front of it. So this way it kind of forms an invisible stitch, and it will also give you a neat joint. If you can see, it looks like you've actually made a stitch over there and you still have these borders on the side. So continue doing that all the way till you reach the end over here. I'll meet you guys back once you're near the end. I'm at the end of the stitches. I just have 2 stitches remaining. So now this is my second last stitch and this is my last one. So I'm going to pull this marker out. I'm going to go into this stitch and come out of the last stitch. I'm going to go into the other side and do the same. Now to end this row, I'm going to go back into the last stitch and come out of the last stitch on this side. Now I'll go back into the flap, the last stitch of the flap, and I'm going to turn my work around. I'll make a knot in this corner. So that's that, and now just weave in your end and your flap is complete. You can see that the joint is quite neat, and you have this space where you can, which makes it easy for this flap to move around. Now for the next part, I have this piece that we just attached, and I have the handle. I have put the needle in the tail of that thread. Now grab your pouch. You can hang the handle on either side of the pouch, any one side of the pouch, whichever you choose. I'm going to stitch it on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch it like so that it looks like this from the back, and you have this handle out. This stitching goes on the inside of the bag. So for that, I'm going to flip my work upside down, and I'm going to place this handle like so. So now we have these 2 rows of single crochets, so we're just going to hide that inside the bag. And take your needle and pull up a loop from the back side of the bag. That is quite tight. And go into these stitches on your handle. So I'm going to go under this single crochet right here at this edge, and I'm going to sew it on like so. So now I go into the next stitch, come out to the back, go under the loops in the bottom of the bag. Just make sure you can go diagonally, you can go anyhow. Just make sure you don't go onto the other side of the bag, otherwise your loops will be visible on the other side and it won't look pretty. Just go under any loop on the bag so that it holds the yarn, and then come out of the next stitch on your handle and keep doing that till you reach the end, which we have. Now you go back, once you reach the end, go back into the bottom, come out on the side and sew a little more, sew the ends of the, so now we've sewed this part of the handle. Now we sew the handle and the bottom part as well so that it holds it tight. Now come back out into this from this stitch. From the stitch below, go into the next stitch and to the back part of the bag. Go under the loops and continue doing that till you've secured your handle, till you're happy with how secure your handle is. If you turn your work around, your handle should be tight, which is not. So I'm going to go one more round and secure this. So you just have to keep doing that till you're happy with how secure your handle is. I'll see you guys once I've done this. Now I've completed sewing it on, and you can see that once on this edge, when I try to separate them, there is no gap. So once you're happy with that, just make a knot, and cut your yarn off and weave the yarn in, and I'll meet you guys for the last bit to complete this pouch. There's just one thing remaining to complete this pouch. Now we just have to attach the zipper onto this pouch. So for that I have a tapestry needle. I have a long thread attached to it. So grab that and let's join them together, right? So before we sew this onto the pouch, I'm going to make a knot in this edge with the yarn so that the zip doesn't just open up and come out accidentally when we are sewing our zipper on. So I'm just taking the same yarn that I'm going to use to sew the zip onto my pouch, and I'm going to just make a knot over here. This knot also just doubles up as a knot to secure this yarn onto our pouch so that it doesn't come out later. So that's done. Now just put your needle through this hole and get the needle behind the zipper so that it's easy for us to sew it on. Now to place the zipper, I'm going to open my zip this way, so it's going to come like that so that it opens this side, and I'm going to place this in between this space. So just make sure that your zip aligns in the center of the opening. You can use pins or like so to place to hold your zip in place. Pin them here so that it doesn't move when you're working. When you're pinning this, make sure not to pull your crochet work too much. Actually, don't pull it at all. Let it be in its normal space, because once you sew them on, if your zipper is too tight or loose, it will become difficult for you to open and close the zip. So just keep that in mind when you're working with your zip. So just make sure that your work is loose enough. You're not yanking on your crochet work too tight. Okay. I'm just going to pin one side first because we are going to work on one side before we start the other. Now grab your yarn. Now we've come out of this zip over here, right? So now we go back into this zip. What we will do is we'll poke our needle through the zip over here and make sure we are coming out of this space under one of the stitches, and pull your needle out. So now we've come out of this stitch. Now we go under this stitch and poke through our zip and pull our yarn out. Now you come back from behind the zip to the front of your work, just under the next stitch. So this is a stitch that we just went under from. Now we come back out of this one. So just poke your zip. It's exactly like doing running stitch on embroidery. Ugh. Come out. Go back into the next stitch from the front and poke your zip and pull your needle through. So keep doing that all the way around, and once you reach the end, fold this part, sew along this edge and the zip like so. Make sure both the pieces are there, and then you sew on the top part exactly like this. In between each of the stitches, go under one and come out of the other, and go under the other and come out of the other. Just keep doing that till you reach the end, and then we'll sew this side, and then your zip should be done. I'll meet you guys back when I reach one edge so I can show you how I sew this side, and then we'll start this top together. So I've almost reached the end of the other side. I just have one stitch remaining. So now once you reach this corner, put your needle through the zip and get it out of this corner right here, and hide the zip behind this side. So now we are going to sew on this side, and we are going to hold this zip down as well, exactly like we did on this side, but now we do it on this. Go back, and if it's a little tight, just go on top of that zip like so, and we'll go back down to secure that zip in place. So go back into the stitch over here and under the zip and come back up. Now you place this part of the zip right on top of that. Don't leave too much gap, because otherwise it will not, your zip won't shut. Now you come out of this top part of the zip, come out of this stitch in the corner, like so. Go into the next stitch, hold on to the zip and pull the yarn out. So now you can actually see that our lower part, the inside section as well. If you go into one stitch and come out of the next, your stitches will fairly look even. If you think you don't like how this looks, you can use the transparent yarn, the plastic transparent yarns that you get to sew the zip on as well. So now I'm going to just place this lid on like so, and use my pins to pin this zip like we did for the first one, the bottom section. You can of course open the zip and then pin it up so that you have, your work looks neat. Now we'll just start. So you can pin it up all the way to the end and sew this side on exactly like we did this, and complete this corner like we did this corner, so that your zip is attached to this side and then there's no gap. Right, so I'll see you guys once we've completed the whole zip. This is the complete look of the bag. I attached a tussle to the front of the bag just to accessorize it. You can leave it as it is, or you can add a button to it, your handle, the cute little strap on top, the zip. That's how it looks. I do hope you liked the tutorial as much as I loved making this. Please leave us a thumbs up if you did like it. It really means the world to us. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments box below, and I'll see you in our next video. Till then, happy crocheting!